So this video is to walk you through the sample problems that are listed on your test outline for your last test of the 6-week period. So the first problem says 1 over 1 plus sine theta, 1 minus sine theta or sine x. And so I'm going to FOIL these bottom ones together. 1 times 1 is a 1. 1 times negative sine is a minus sine theta. Sine times 1 is a plus sine theta. And then sine times negative sine makes a negative sine squared theta. So these cancel off, and on the bottom you're left with the 1 minus sine squared. So I have 1 over 1 minus sine squared theta. This is a Pythag. Cosine squared theta plus sine squared theta equals 1. So cosine squared theta equals 1 minus sine squared theta. So this piece I can rename as cosine squared theta. So I have 1 over cosine squared theta. 1 over cosine is called secant, so 1 over cosine squared is called secant squared. So all simplified down, this thing equals secant squared theta. The next problem is secant squared x. Oops, I forgot the c. Try again. The next problem is secant squared x minus 1 over sine squared x. This is a Pythag. Tangent squared x plus 1 equals secant squared x. So tangent squared x equals secant squared x minus 1. So on top I'm going to replace this secant squared x minus 1 with a tangent squared x over my sine squared x. Tangent is sine over cosine, so tangent squared is sine squared over cosine squared. I can write the bottom right here. This sine squared is a sine squared over 1, like this. And then it's keep, change, flip. Keep the top, change to multiply, and flip this over, so multiply by 1 over sine squared. Sine squared on top and sine squared on bottom will cancel off, leaving you with a 1 over cosine squared x, which from the last problem we know is secant squared x. And there's our answer. The next problem says to solve, and it says 2 secant squared x plus tan x minus 3 equals 0. And it gives you the interval 0 to 2 pi. I cannot factor this the way it is. I have to make them the same trig functions. So secant squared is equal to tangent squared x plus 1. So I have a 2 out front. Plug in my tangent squared x plus 1 plus tangent x minus 3 equals 0. I need to distribute this 2 into my parentheses, and I get 2 tangent squared x plus 2 plus tangent x minus 3 equals 0. I can combine my 2 with my minus 3. I combine like terms, and I get 2 tangent squared x plus tan x minus 1 equals 0. I'm going to go over here and do algebra, just plain algebra. This is like a 2t squared plus a t minus a 1 equals 0. You can do the box method. I personally don't enjoy the box method, so I'm going to do what's called factor by grouping. So I have to do a times c. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. I need 2 factors of negative 2 that add up to make this 1t in the middle. So it's going to be a positive 2 and a negative 1. Positive 2 times negative 1 makes my negative 2. Positive 2 plus negative 1 makes that yellow 1 I wrote. So now I'm going to rewrite what I had. 2t squared plus 2t minus 1t minus 1. Please note that if I combine these two things here, I get back to what I had right here. I have not changed anything, I've just rewritten it. But now I can factor by grouping. So when the first two are a group, they have a 2t in common. And when you pull a 2t out, you're left with t and plus 1. If I make the next two a group, they have a minus 1 in common. You're left with a t plus 1. In my red and my black, both of them have a t plus 1. T plus 1. And then in the red group, you're left with a 2t. And then in the black group, a minus 1 equals 0. So if I go back over here, this is the same thing as, parenthesis, t stood for tangent. So tangent x plus 1 times 2 tangent x minus 1 equals 0. This one right here and this one right here is equal to 0. So you get tangent x plus 1 equals 0. 2 tangent x minus 1 equals 0. So for the first piece, I get tangent x equals negative 1. For the second piece, I get tangent x equals 1/2. For the first piece, where does tangent of x equal negative 1? Well, it happens at the pi over 4s, but since I want it to be negative, I need to be at 3 pi over 4 and 7 pi over 4. Disclaimer, this one you have to use a calculator for, and you will not have a calculator on your test. So all of the problems that you get on your test will equal something that you know from the unit circle. But in my calculator, I can type arctan of 1/2, and it should spit out an x angle answer. So let me do that. So if you type in the calculator, it should come out that x equals, sorry, that's very sloppy. Let me try one more time. X equals 0.464. That's one answer. Remember, the period of tangent is pi, so I am going to add a pi to that to find my other answer. So when you add pi to this, the other answer is 3.605. So these are your answers, and these are your answers. That one's a little bit trickier, but again, you will not have a calculator, so everything on your test will be right off the unit circle. Let's try another solving problem. The next one says sine of theta plus root 2 equals negative sine theta. So let's put all the trig stuff on one side. So I get root 2 equals negative 2 sine theta because I subtracted this sine theta over to the other side. Then I'm going to divide by negative 2. So I get negative root 2 over 2 equals sine theta. Well, theta equals a negative root 2 over 2 for sine at, I want negative, so I don't want to be in the first or the second. I want to be in the third and the fourth. So that is 5 pi over 4 and 7 pi over 4. But please note, this problem had no interval. So I'm going to do plus. I'm talking about sine, and sine's period is 2 pi n, and then plus 2 pi n. So here are your answers for this problem. Last one. 2 sine x over 2 minus root 3 equals 0. So 2 sine x over 2 equals root 3. You're going to add the root 3 over. Divide both sides by 2. Sine of x over 2 equals root 3 over 2. And then for a moment, I'm just going to call this a theta. So I have sine of theta equals root 3 over 2. So that happens for sine. Sine is positive in the top two quadrants at pi over 3 and at 2 pi over 3. But I did not have theta. I had x over 2. So x over 2 is going to equal pi over 3. I'm going to put a space on purpose, comma, 2 pi over 3. Please note again, there's no interval. So on this I need to do plus 2 pi n plus 2 pi n. And to get rid of this divide by 2 at the bottom, you're going to multiply everything by a 2. So you'll get x equals 2 pi over 3 plus 4 pi n, comma, 4 pi over 3 plus 4 pi n. There's a link on your outline to go over some verifying problems. There's also lots of other problems listed on your outline that you should go through and review.